You know, my friends, relationships are the most powerful force in our lives. They can shape us, uplift us, or sometimes leave us questioning everything. But what happens when two people, man and woman, stop connecting? When the calls, the texts, the conversations, they all just fade away. This isn't just about silence. It's about something deeper. It's about the stories we tell ourselves, the beliefs we hold about who we are and what we deserve. Today, we're going to break through the noise, peel back the layers, and discover the real reason for that disconnect. And more importantly, how you can rise above it. Because here's the truth. Every moment of silence is an opportunity. An opportunity to rediscover your power, to reconnect with yourself, and to redefine what love, respect, and communication mean to you. Let's dive in. Let's unleash your potential. And let's create the relationships and the life you deserve. Let's create the relationships and the life you deserve. When two people stop communicating, it often feels like a void, a space filled with uncertainty, doubt, and unanswered questions. But within that silence lies an opportunity to turn inward and rediscover the power of self-awareness. Disconnection can be unsettling, but it also provides a chance to explore what lies beneath the surface of your emotions and thoughts. Self-awareness begins with recognizing your initial reactions to the situation. Are you feeling abandoned, angry, or confused? These emotions are not just responses to the external circumstances, but also reflections of your internal world. They reveal your fears, insecurities, and unmet needs. Instead of pushing these feelings aside, use them as a guide to understand what you truly value in yourself and in relationships. As you reflect, consider the role you played in the relationship dynamic. Were there patterns of behavior or communication that contributed to the disconnection? This isn't about blame, it's about responsibility. By owning your part, you empower yourself to grow and make better choices in the future. Silence can also bring clarity to what you genuinely want and need from the relationship. Often, when we're caught in the flow of constant interaction, we lose sight of our boundaries and priorities. Disconnection forces us to slow down, reassess, and realign with our core values. During this process, it's crucial to observe your self-talk. What stories are you telling yourself about the situation? Are you focusing on self-criticism, or are you showing compassion toward yourself? The way you interpret the silence will either hinder or enhance your self-awareness. By questioning these narratives, you gain insight into your beliefs and how they shape your emotions. This journey isn't easy, but it's essential. Silence in a relationship often feels like an overwhelming void, but it holds the potential for tremendous personal growth. When communication halts, it forces us to step back and reevaluate our emotional responses, thoughts, and internal narratives. This is where self-awareness begins to unfold, offering clarity in the midst of uncertainty. One of the first steps in cultivating self-awareness is acknowledging how the disconnection makes you feel. Whether it's sadness, frustration, or relief, these emotions provide valuable insight into your emotional needs and attachment patterns. Instead of reacting impulsively, take time to sit with these feelings and explore what they reveal about your inner world. As you delve deeper, start examining the expectations and assumptions you brought into the relationship. Were you seeking validation, approval, or a sense of security from the other person? Understanding these motivations can help you identify areas where you may need to cultivate self-sufficiency and inner strength. Disconnection also gives you the space to reflect on how you communicate and connect with others. Did you express your needs clearly? Were there moments where you avoided confrontation or failed to listen actively? By identifying these patterns, you empower yourself to create healthier interactions in the future. Another crucial aspect of self-awareness is recognizing your triggers. Those moments when an action or word from the other person evoked an intense emotional reaction. Triggers are often tied to past experiences or unhealed wounds, and identifying them helps you uncover what still needs attention and healing within yourself. Silence can serve as a mirror, reflecting back the areas of your life that require growth and understanding. It encourages you to pause, question, and reassess who you are outside of the relationship dynamic. And the stories we tell ourselves during a period of disconnection often dictate how we respond to the silence. These narratives are rooted in our beliefs, fears, and past experiences, shaping the way we perceive ourselves and the relationship. It's easy to fall into a negative spiral where the absence of communication is interpreted as rejection or failure. However, these interpretations are not always accurate. They are shaped by the lens through which we view the world. When contact stops, the mind begins to fill in the gaps, creating stories about the other person's intentions. We may convince ourselves that they no longer care, that we did something wrong, or that the relationship was never as meaningful as we thought. These assumptions often come from past wounds or insecurities, rather than the reality of the situation. By recognizing that these are simply stories we are telling ourselves, we can begin to question their validity and open ourselves up to a more balanced perspective. It's important to step back and examine whether these narratives are rooted in truth or in fear. Are you telling yourself that you're unworthy of love or attention? Are you framing the situation as a reflection of your own inadequacies? The power of self-awareness lies in recognizing when these stories are limiting your ability to grow or move forward. Additionally, the way we frame a relationship can either empower or disempower us. If we view the disconnection as a reflection of our value, we may feel defeated, but if we see it as a natural ebb and flow of life, it can become an opportunity for personal transformation. The stories we choose to embrace influence not only our emotional well-being, but also our ability to heal and move on. Fear and ego often play a significant role in causing communication breakdowns in relationships. When contact stops, fear can quickly take over, leading us to believe that something is wrong with us or that the relationship is doomed. We may fear rejection, abandonment, or the loss of connection, which triggers a range of defensive behaviors. These fears are rooted in our need for validation and security, and they often prevent us from responding in a healthy, constructive way. Instead of approaching the situation with curiosity or openness, we may react with anger, withdrawal, or resentment. Ego, too, plays a huge part in the disconnection. Our ego is the part of us that wants to protect our sense of self, often at the cost of authentic connection. When we stop hearing from someone, our ego might tell us that they don't care or that we deserve better. It convinces us to play the victim, to hold grudges, or to become defensive. This protective mechanism prevents us from seeing the situation clearly or empathizing with the other person's perspective. Both fear and ego cause us to project our own insecurities onto the situation instead of facing what's really happening. We may misinterpret silence as a reflection of our own worth, making the disconnection about us, rather than a complex dynamic between two individuals. These reactions feed into a cycle of misunderstanding and emotional distance, further fueling the disconnection. When we become aware of these influences, we can begin to challenge them. We can learn to separate our fears and ego from the reality of the situation and respond with emotional intelligence rather than impulsive reactions. This awareness allows us to break free from the grip of fear and ego and move toward healing and understanding. Unmet expectations are often a silent force behind the disconnection between two people. At the heart of every relationship are unspoken or communicated expectations about how we want to be treated, what we want from the other person, and how we envision the relationship unfolding. When these expectations aren't met, frustration, disappointment, and confusion set in. Over time, this gap between expectation and reality can create emotional distance and eventually lead to a breakdown in communication. That's where the disruption comes in. The key to understanding the role of unmet expectations is recognizing that we all bring personal needs, desires, and assumptions into a relationship. Whether it's expecting consistent communication, emotional support, or validation, these needs are often unspoken. And when they aren't fulfilled, we may feel neglected or undervalued. The lack of communication only amplifies this sense of dissatisfaction. Often, these unmet expectations are rooted in idealized notions of how a relationship should look. Based on past experiences or cultural ideals, we may assume that love means constant contact or that a healthy relationship requires a certain level of emotional intimacy at all times. When reality doesn't meet these standards, we're left with a feeling of disconnect, questioning the relationship's future. What's critical in this moment is recognizing that unmet expectations don't always signal the end of a relationship, but rather an opportunity for growth. It's a chance to communicate openly about your needs and desires and to reassess what is truly important in your relationship. By addressing the gap between expectation and reality, we open the door to clearer communication and more realistic, fulfilling connections. Emotional independence is one of the most vital aspects of personal growth, especially during times of disconnection. When communication stops, it's easy to feel lost, anxious, or incomplete, as if our emotional well-being is entirely dependent on the other person's actions. However, true emotional independence comes from realizing that our happiness, self-worth, and sense of security cannot be solely reliant on someone else. Each person is aware of their own limitations, and independence is not necessary, but a recovery from self-abuse. And since in moments of disconnection, many people struggle with the urge to seek validation or reassurance from the other person. This reliance on external sources for emotional fulfillment creates a fragile foundation, one that is easily shaken when communication breaks down. The fear of being alone or abandoned can trigger a cascade of negative emotions, making it difficult to function without the constant presence or approval of the other person. Building emotional independence involves developing a strong sense of self that isn't contingent on the relationship or the other person's behavior. It's about finding peace and fulfillment within yourself, regardless of external circumstances. This process requires self-reflection, understanding your own needs, and cultivating practices that help you stay grounded, such as journaling, meditation, or pursuing personal passions. When you embrace emotional independence, you become less reactive to the ebb and flow of relationships. You begin to recognize that your value doesn't change based on someone else's behavior. Instead of feeling threatened by disconnection, you can approach it with a sense of calm and clarity. You're able to assess the situation objectively and make decisions that are in alignment with your personal growth and well-being, rather than acting out of fear or desperation. Emotional independence is not about detaching from love or intimacy. It's about ensuring that your emotional well-being comes from within. Disconnection in a relationship can be a powerful catalyst for clarity and personal purpose. When the constant flow of communication stops, it creates a space of stillness where external distractions fade and we are left alone with our thoughts, feelings, and reflections. This silence can be uncomfortable at first, but it also allows for deeper introspection. Instead of continuing to chase after the other person's attention, we're forced to look inward and ask ourselves, what do I truly want? What do I need to feel fulfilled, both in this relationship and in life? What if 80% of the relationships lack clarity? During this time, we have an opportunity to reassess our values, goals, and desires, and align ourselves with a deeper sense of purpose. When we use disconnection as a tool for clarity, it forces us to confront the areas in our lives where we may have been neglecting our own growth or needs. Are we pursuing our passions? Are we taking care of our mental and emotional health? Have we been compromising our values to fit into a mold that doesn't serve us? By taking time to reconnect with ourselves, we can gain a deeper understanding of who we truly are and what we truly want from relationships. This process of self-discovery and realignment gives us direction and purpose. It shifts our focus from the disconnection itself to the opportunity for transformation. Rather than feeling lost or helpless, we realize that silence is not a void, but a space of potential, ready to be filled with clarity and renewed purpose. Setting boundaries is an essential part of fostering healthy, balanced relationships, and it's especially important when communication has broken down. When two people stop contacting each other, it can serve as a signal that certain boundaries, whether emotional, physical, or psychological, have been crossed or neglected. When two people stop contacting each other, have been crossed or neglected, without clear boundaries, we risk giving too much of ourselves or allowing others to take more than they should, which can lead to frustration, resentment, and ultimately, disconnection. Boundaries are not walls, they are guidelines that protect our well-being and ensure mutual respect. In moments of silence, it's crucial to reflect on whether your boundaries were clearly communicated or respected in the past. Did you allow behaviors that made you uncomfortable? Did you fail to express your needs or protect your space? The absence of contact can serve as an opportunity to redefine and reinforce these boundaries, ensuring that you are not only protecting your emotional health, but also cultivating healthier ways to interact with others moving forward. End quote. A well-established boundary ensures that both individuals in the relationship understand what is acceptable and what is not. It empowers you to speak up when something is wrong without fear of rejection or conflict. Boundaries also give you the freedom to choose how much you give or take in any relationship, allowing for mutual respect and understanding. When you set boundaries, you also set the stage for self-respect. You no longer feel the need to tolerate behavior that doesn't serve you, and you approach the relationship with a clearer, more empowered perspective. Disconnection can then become a signal that it's time to revisit your personal boundaries, realign with your values, and establish what you truly need to feel safe and respected in your relationships. Clearly, we all know boundaries are very important. However, the setback and criticism you receive creates the opportunity for growth. Recognizing when to let go versus when to rebuild is a crucial skill during times of disconnection. Not every silence or period of emotional distance signals the end of a relationship, but it does indicate the need for clarity. Often we stay attached to relationships out of fear of being alone, fear of starting over, or fear of failure. The routine of separation is self-imposed limitation, which forces you to seek. These fears can cloud our judgment, making it difficult to assess whether we should invest energy into rebuilding the connection or if it's time to let go for good. Letting go doesn't necessarily mean giving up. It's about acknowledging that sometimes holding on to something that no longer serves us can hinder our personal growth and happiness. If the relationship is toxic, emotionally draining, or consistently filled with unmet needs, the silence can be a sign that it's time to move on. Letting go allows us to create space for new opportunities, for healing, and for building a life aligned with our true desires. On the other hand, if both individuals are willing to work through the disconnection, rebuilding can be a powerful process. Rebuilding requires open communication, mutual respect, and a shared commitment to growth. It's important to ask yourself, are both parties willing to address the issues that cause the disconnect? Are both willing to invest in the relationship for it to flourish again? If the answer is yes, then there's potential for reconciliation and growth. The key is understanding that both letting go and rebuilding are choices, and they should be made based on clarity and self-awareness. By stepping back and assessing the situation objectively without the influence of fear or ego, you can decide which path will serve your highest good, whether that's moving on or putting in the work to reconnect. The absence of contact in a relationship is often the perfect moment to rediscover your own value. When contact ceases, it's important to recognize that your value isn't defined by the presence or absence of others. Your worth is inherent and cannot be diminished by another person's behavior. During this time of solitude, you have the opportunity to reconnect with the things that make you feel strong, capable, and confident. This could mean engaging in activities that bring you joy, pursuing passions that make you feel fulfilled, or simply reflecting on all the ways in which you've grown as an individual. The disconnection offers a chance to build a deeper sense of self-esteem and self-respect. Instead of seeking external validation, you can begin to practice self-love and appreciation. Take time to remind yourself of your strengths, your accomplishments, and the qualities that make you unique. Recognizing your intrinsic value allows you to step into the next phase of your life, whether that involves rebuilding the relationship or moving forward with a renewed sense of self-worth. Ultimately, the absence of contact is not a reflection of who you are, but rather an invitation to realign with your own power. It's a reminder that your value is not dependent on the approval of others, but on the belief you hold about yourself. When you learn to recognize and embrace your worth, no amount of silence can take it away. In conclusion, the space between two people, when communication ceases, is not just an empty void, but a powerful opportunity for self-discovery, growth, and transformation. While the silence can feel unsettling, it is during these moments of disconnection that we are called to look within, challenge the narratives we've created, and embrace the power of self-awareness. By understanding the role of fear, ego, unmet expectations, and boundaries, we gain the clarity needed to decide whether it's time to let go or rebuild. Our perceptions of what is possible, impossible, and real. Emotional independence becomes the foundation on which we can stand strong regardless of external circumstances. And clarity helps us realign with our true purpose. This is not a time to question our worth, but a moment to rediscover it, independent of anyone's actions or approval. Ultimately, it's through embracing the lessons that come with disconnection that we move closer to understanding ourselves and building the kind of relationships that truly serve us. The journey through silence is not the end, it's the beginning of a new chapter where we emerge stronger, more self-aware, and more empowered to create the life and relationships we deserve. The key is in how we choose to respond, and by doing so with clarity and confidence, we turn every moment of disconnection into a step toward personal freedom and growth.